Hi there guys, and welcome to another Train Sim 2017 video. Today is the start of a new series, and in this series we will be covering the one and only HST. This is going to be a Valenta HST with the buffers. During this series we'll go through a lot of the technical aspects about the Class 43 and differences between them, even some information that I didn't even know. And I always thought I was pretty good with HSTs, but I clearly wasn't, because I found out about a whole new thing. We'll get to that further down the route. We will be going through the British Rail manuals, so I have the working instructions for Class 43 HSTs, and I also have the driving instructions and general information about the 43, so we'll go through both of those. I do have like assistance to failed trains and yada yada yada, which I might do a little video of later on. We might do a failure somewhere down the line if I can sort out a scenario that will do that. So yeah, let's get started. We'll also do a little bit of depot stuff on the way as we pass Craig and Tinney and stuff like that. It's worth doing. So without further ado, let's get going, and then we can start going through the manuals. So to start with, I'm going to go through the driving instructions. I'm going to start with those just because we're pulling away, and as this is just a quick drive, we can do it slowly and take our time and go through it bit by bit. So what I'll do is I'll actually go through what it says first, as in the actual procedure, if I can find it, and then we'll go through what every bit does. I'm not sure if this has actually driving instructions as in notch 1, notch 2, notch 3 sort of thing. Yes, we do. So we're pretending we're taking this train from service, and as we are a TDM equipped train, we'll be operating normally under diesel power. Let's have a look. Where do we start with this? So I suppose I better actually go through first the reason that this thing has buffers and the reason we have them. So in 1988, I think it was, the Class 91s were coming on stream, but Metro Camel hadn't got their bums in gear to finish the Mark IV DVTs, or the Mark IV carriages by this point. I think there was only one still in test, and that was only a Mark IV carriage. It wasn't a DVT at the time. So British Rail were kind of stuck. They had these banging new Class 91s, and they were having to run them round. So some very clever engineers at the technical centre in Derby decided to fit some buffers to an HST and fit them with TDM, which is time division multiplex. And also I think they had UIC as well, which is Union something or other, Cheyenne. It's French words, and I'm not brilliant at French. And basically what those are, to break them down, is a way that the Class 91, which would be at the opposite end of the train, could control the Class 43, or the Class 43 could control the 91. So originally when these were started being used, the engine wasn't used for traction. It was literally just given hotel services only. And what they kept finding was they were getting fires up here in the exhaust, and that's because HSTs the Valentas didn't particularly like to idle for too long. Oil would gather in the exhaust up here and then eventually catch fire. So then what they decided to do was let the HSTs power that as well. So if you think you've got, was it 2,300 horsepower in an HST, plus the many billions of horsepower a 91 is, I'll just get the actual figure. I think it's around 6,000 horsepower, but I may be completely wrong there. Let me just look that up. I don't have the manual for the 91 with me right now, so I'm going to have to trust Mr. Wikipedia. Yeah, 6,040. Oh, I just saw it, you know, if I hadn't actually clicked on the thing, it was there. 6,300 horsepower. So nearly 9,000 horsepower you had with a 43 and 91 combo. So you can imagine how rapid that was. I would have loved to have been around and seen that and had it go. So inside here, there would have been a little cubicle that would have been for the TDM and UIC controls. And what time division multiplex basically means is they could send signals with a time delay to control, not a delay, but in timed segments to control the cab. So it didn't use, like previous systems, air pressure or anything like that. It wasn't pneumatic, it was all mechanical. It was all done digitally, in theory, by pulses of information. Now TDM works with Mark III DVTs and so there's 47s fitted, 86s, 87s, 90s, 91s, 67s have TDM and UIC. Off the top of my head, that's all I can come up with at the minute, but I'm sure there probably is maybe a couple more. So there was a lot fitted around the time of this. It was the in thing, and it basically meant that they could work with in push-pull formation. So of course the 47s worked with the DBSOs, so that would have been earlier on. I think that was in the 70s, late 70s. Right then, so driving instructions for a modified TDM equipped train is to operate under diesel power. The TDM cutout switch on the control cubicle must be in the vertical HST position. The TDM cutout switch left in the TDM mode position, no traction power will be available, and the general fault light will turn to red when the power controller is opened. I must add, these instructions were from June 1989, so this might even be out of date for the time scale we're sort of looking at now, but we'll do a bit. So to carry out a brake continuity test, the brake test switch must remain in normal with the park and brake applied. Brake continuity test switch is here, and park and brake switch is here. If the driver attempts to move the train with the park and brake applied, when the master switch is moved to select a direction of travel, the brake pipe pressure will immediately fall to 0. I don't think that's simulated. Should we try it? Let's try it. Let's give it a go. Didn't hold it on for long enough. There we go. So the park and brake is on. So looking for the brake pipes pressure to go to 0 when we do this. That would be a no. Okay, let's take that back to off, and we'll take the park and brake off. So there's one of the if you've watched a few of these videos, you know I like the note or warning sections that come up underneath them. This is a note. During preparation, the driver must check that the external UIC jumper cable is secured, the buffers and draw gear are undamaged, and the brake test switches are normal. The TDM cutout switch is in the vertical HST position mode. It's basically what it's already told you. So the UIC is on the buffer beam under here. Well, that's stowed. We know that now. Oh, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Is turn the engine off. I've not actually started. You know, it's weird. I haven't started this yet. But we'll do it as it's meant to be. So starting the diesel engine in service. We'll wait for it to cool down and just completely drop off. Let's just watch our RPM there. Make sure it's at 0 before we start anything. Oh, listen to that. That's awesome, isn't it? Okay. So start the diesel engine service. Move the master switch to engine only. Which on an HST, is it down the bottom? Nope, it's in the middle. So we're in engine only. Check the indicator light on the engine panel illuminate and press and hold the engine start button. That was simple, wasn't it? So we'll keep pressing this until the engine stop light goes out. After a short period, the diesel engine will run. Release the engine start push button when the engine stopped indicator light changes from red engine stopped to the normal blue. I don't think it works that way in this. I don't think it actually goes blue. If the diesel engine will not start after 3 successive, remember the whole everything comes in threes with trains, doesn't it? Everything you have to do, you're only allowed to do 3 times. So if the engine will start after 3 successive attempts, the cause must be investigated. If, for example, the engine stopped indicator light does not change to blue when the leading engine has started, the engine in the rear must be checked. So once we've done that, we'll need to switch the train supply on, but we need to do that in the other cab, because it was always the rear cab that goes train supply, so we'll switch the train supply on. Check the train supply light on becomes illuminated and the engine idling speed will increase when train supply is available. We've got that. So it says, another note at the bottom here, the diesel engines can be started individually by local engine start push buttons in each compartment. The battery isolating switch must be closed in accordance with the train crew manual driver static duties BR 33056/50 before attempting to start the engine. Right, we have done that, so we are now started. What have we got next? We have driving a train service. Carry out a brake continuity test with a parking brake applied. We can't actually do that because it's not simulated. Brake tests aren't simulated throughout train sim, especially with the buttons. These are a bit of a more modern thing with trains. So we can't do that. So partially apply the automatic air brake and release the parking brake. Say we've done that. To press the DSD pedal and move the master switch to forward, we will do. So we're going to move the automatic brake control to running and check that the brake pipe pressure rises to approximately 5.1 bar. It says here, on a raising gradient it may be necessary to apply power before releasing the brake, particularly when running with one power car isolated. Keep in mind working instructions concerning gradient restrictions. So move the power control to notch 1 and check that the motor current is registering on the ammeter. Observe the general alarm light stays blue. This motor current is established on the rear power car. So the next thing we'll then do is advance the power controller 1 notch at a time according to rail conditions. If these are good, then there's no permanent or temporary speed restrictions. Move the power control to notch 5 as soon as possible, taking care to ensure the rear end of the train does not exceed speed limits, particularly over point work and crossings. So that's a very poignant point. I've had a few messages from people getting quite cross that I throw trains into top notch quite quickly. That's kind of what you were meant to do. As long as there is no temporary or permanent speed restrictions, you want to get that engine up to speed as fast as possible. So the next thing, if persistent wheel slip is taking place, allow the train to accelerate more slowly. When the train is moving, power controller may be used as necessary in order to maintain the desired speed. It is important to remember that Class 43 trains must not be propelled other than provided in the working instructions. Okay, so remember what we had to do? We had to basically, let's go back. We needed to move the power controller and check that we have current. So stick it forward. It's not going to pull amps because I've not put the brake into step 1. It's not going to do that either. There we go. So we've got amps. And we're slightly moving. Let's give her a little bit more. Okay, next stop is Newcastle, platform 4 in 124.37 miles. So we've got a good bit of time to talk about it. So we have a 20 speed limit to part in Edinburgh, and then onto a 30, then to 40 as we go through the tunnels. And I haven't set my headlights, which I should have done in the driver's static duties. That was very naughty of me. There's me trying to be all professional, and ta-da! We mess it up. Markers, is this markers? Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy. So we'll just go through this landslip here. It's a bit like what's happened in Liverpool. And because it's an HST with buffers, those buffers can just push all that rubble out of the way. We'll pretend. So that's got no tunnel occlusion here as well. You've heard me moan about this route before. Part of me loves it, another part of me absolutely despises it. So I'm going to go up another notch. As we've got 70 and then 85, then 90. By the time we've got out of here, we should be alright. Oh no, we're not alright. We're not alright. We're going to speed. Do you remember that bit in the manual that said make sure the rear of your train's past any speed restrictions before you open it up? Yeah, I should have really listened to it, shouldn't I? So as we're probably not going to have any braking for too long, I'm just trying to think. I think it's just the speed limit's going up from now. We'll talk about brake application, and then you can watch me epically fail when we do it later on and not follow the way, the policy. So, brake application. When it is known in advance that a stop is to be made, the power controller should be moved to notch 1. Held there for 5 seconds, then moved to off. In emergencies, the brake controller must be moved to the emergency without pausing. So basically stick it in emergency without stopping in each notch, basically. Simultaneously with the movement of the power controller going to off. So literally hands in opposite directions, one straight up, one straight down. So your power controller will be going towards the front of the train, your brake controller back towards, brake controller, power controller back to the front of the train, brake controller towards you. No, I've got that the opposite way round. Again, sorry guys. Craigentini Depot with a Pendolino in it. This is a bit of an ulterior world when it comes to this Just Trains route. So, just to reiterate that, it would be the power controller would go forward, and the speed controller, the brake would go forward as well. And it's actually quite cleverly designed that way, because of if you fell forward, in theory, you might just knock your power off and your brakes. So if you were having a heart attack and you leant forward, you'd hope that you hit all that. So, little fact about Craigentini Depot that we've just passed on the right hand side, it was opened in 1904, so it's quite an old depot. And it's still in use today for East Coast HSTs, Voyagers I think are based there as well. So we've got 95. So for normal stops or signal checks basically mean anything that is not a green. With the power controller off, move the brake controller to the required notch position. The brake is self-lapping and will hold the selected brake notch. As much as that's self-explanatory, let me explain to you what lapping means. So on older locomotives you would increase the brake handle until the pressure came to where you wanted it, and you pull it back to a position called lap. So you push it forward to apply, then when you've got the brake pressure you wanted, you pull it to lap and it hold that pressure. So it didn't really, the amount you opened the brake in release was how fast the brakes would come on, not how much brake would come on. And then you pull it back to lap and it would hold. With anything that's got a self-lapping brake, like in the HST, it's just notched. So it will hold the brake whatever position it's set to. I can't remember what the actual pressures are for each notch on the HST, but I think it'll probably tell us that, to be fair. So the brake will self-lapping and hold the brake notch. It is therefore unnecessary to move the brake handle to and fro to maintain the brake application at the required intensity. When the speed of the train is below 10 miles an hour and sufficient braking distance is available, a jerky stop can be avoided by moving the brake controller towards the initial position, which is like step one. So you will often see when I try and stop on other driving videos, I'll always try and put the brake back to step one when I get into the station. That is to avoid that jolt as you stop. During severe weather conditions or frost or snow, a brake application should be made every 2 to 3 minutes. That's called a running brake test. That is pretty common practice on any locomotive in snow and ice. What you're meant to do is put the brake on and wait till you feel a bit of retardation and you can see the speedo drop a little bit, then you can pull your brake off again. It's not foolproof. People still do running brake tests and still run into problems, whether in railhead conditions or frozen brakes, which can happen. Snow can pack up so the brake cylinders can't actuate, gets in all the brake rigging. And if you think about it, with the snow hitting the train and it thawing and then refreezing again as you're going 125 miles an hour, imagine the wind speed plus minus temperatures, you're going to just be a big block of ice by the end of it. There's some really cool pictures out there of HSTs literally looking like they're driven through snow drifts and like have icicles hanging off the sides of them and all sorts. The brake pipe pressures for each of the various brake steps appear in a chart in the driver's static duties, which is the one manual I didn't bring to the shed with me. Note on some power cars the automatic brake is 2-stage with a lower brake cylinder pressure at speeds above 90 miles per hour. There you go, I didn't know that either. Brake releases. When the brakes are to be released following a service application or when standing, the brake controller should be moved to running. Traction power should not be applied until the brake pressure pipe has risen to 5.1 bars. So it's basically saying that you shouldn't put the brakes and power on at the same time. If you look at our brake gauge now, we're sitting at 5.1 bar. Oh, 110. So we want to do notch 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 off. And then step 1 application should do it. Take that brake off now. Stick it in notch 1 just to give us a bit of hold and power. Got to 2. So brake releases, where were we? Yeah, don't apply the brake, don't apply power when you've got the brake on, unless you're on a gradient, and then you can. It's basically what that one says. Alright, it's going to say it now, and this is it properly without my weird take on it. On a rising gradient, apply the minimum brake application necessary to prevent the train moving backwards. The power controller must then be moved notch by notch to notch 5, so you can notch it up until you get the power of the train, like hill start in a car. Just the same, really. Allow 10 seconds for the traction current to build up, and then slowly move the brake controller to the running position. Note that the ammeter will not function if the leading power car is isolated. Alright. Up to notch 3. Observe that the train is moving forward. If the train runs back, the brake controller must be moved to emergency and the power controller off immediately and simultaneously. So that's what we were talking about earlier, both full forward. In these circumstances, only 3 attempts to restart is permitted, when afterwards assistance must be required. So basically, if you can't get the train moving, again, it's that rule of 3, you would have to get some sort of assistance. Now that could be in the form of another locomotive coming to give you a bit of a pull or a shove. Or, this is well outdated, but here we go. Reversing the train. The circumstances under which propelling a Class 43 train is permitted is shown in the working instructions, which we have. We will get to them. So what you're meant to do is return the power controls off, apply the automatic air brake, move the master switch to reverse, release the brakes and the power controller as required. Pretty simple. Reversing trains isn't commonly done. In fact, I think just about privatisation era is when it really got the kibosh. from what I understand. I may be wrong with that one. I'm sure somebody lovely out there would point me in the right direction if I am wrong. So, stopping the engines. Press the engine stop push button. This will stop both engines. The power controller and master switch must be off. A single engine may be stopped with the fire alarm test. Ah, right. Do you guys, have you watched the video where we're going to have to brake to get that to come down? Yeah. See if we can coast. Come on. There we go. So, you'll know, if you guys watched my video in the MTU pack with the Network Rail HST, and I think we drove from Carstairs to Edinburgh, that one? Can't remember. Yes, we did. I pushed the engine test button and my engine got out. That's why. So there you go. Armstrong Powerhouse do put some effort in, don't they? So yeah, single engine maybe stop the fire alarm test push button, which is... Good question on the... there. But it isn't active on the Valenta pack. So it is on the MCU pack and not on the Valenta. Okay. I'm sure there's a very good reason behind that. So you can do that, or the local stop push button. This button must be pulled out before trying to restart the engine. So I think the local stop button is in the clean air compartment in there. So that is us gone through the drive instructions for the 43. We can now move on to the working instructions. So while driving instructions tell us more technical aspects about the engine itself, checks to do, how to drive it, that sort of thing. The working instructions sort of have things like coupling and unpuckling. I've done it again. Unpuckling. What the hell is unpuckling? Coupling and uncoupling. Train divided, driving the train, start buzzer, train communication system, parcels, air conditioning, lighting, toilets, air suspension bogies, doors, braking systems, vision systems, isolating safety systems, passenger communications, transfer of power cars, traction motor defects, partial complete failure of the train, assisting other trains, emergency coupling fires, and emergency equipment. So, as much as those will be covered, of course, with British Rail, there was always overruling general instructions that weren't specific to locomotives. So you need to take both instructions into account, and it will tell us that as we go through. So, see general appendix. So this is BR 33069/2 issue 3. Do I have a date for this one? June 1989 again. One, two, three, four, five, off. And step one should bring us down. It's not gonna. So this actually gives me a little run through of the 43s. What's quite strange about these manuals is, even though these were published in 1989 when they were class 43, it still calls them class 253 and 254. So 253 and 254 were exactly the same, but one was Western region, one was Eastern region. So every time I've been saying class 43, what I've actually been reading is class 253 and 254. But I'll stick to just saying 43. So, description of the train. High-speed trains, HSTs, in class 43 are diesel-powered units consisting of two 2,250 brake horsepower power cars, one at each end, with either 7, which is the Western region 253s, or 8, which is the class 254 Eastern regions. Non-powered trailer vehicles marshal between them. Class 43 weighs 374 tonnes and seats for around 392 passengers, so that was the Western region one, while the class 254 has seats for around 434 passengers and weighs 409 tonnes. So remember, this is Valenta days, this isn't MTU days. I don't know if they're lighter or heavier, if I'm honest with you. Trailer cars have 3 control jumper cables to permit both power cars to be operated with multiple from the leading driving compartment. These trains have very rapid acceleration, do they? With a maximum service speed of 125 miles an hour. Train formation is fixed and must not be varied unless specifically authorised by the region operations manager, but in an emergency, 1 or more trailer vehicles or the rear power car can be detached. And that has happened. Even down to a derailment in Cornwall's Luxion, I can't remember what it's called. I think it was a derailment in a tunnel or something, wasn't it? I'll have to look it up. But they literally took passengers from the train in the guards compartment, the old guards compartment, in the back of the 43, so it's just the 43 running by itself. I'm sure you've all seen short sets where it's been like 2+5 or 2+4. First Great Western, quite commonly you'll see just 2 power cars going between St Philip's Marsh and Old Oak Common. We used to, don't so much now. It does still happen. It does still happen. They're limited in speed if they're running just like that though, and I'll get to that later on in the manual. So the streamlined 7-ton power cars are not equipped with standard draw gear and need special emergency drawbars to couple to each other or to other trains, as we see in section 4. They have a single driving compartment at the leading end. So that's interesting. If I remember right, the Class 43, well, the HST prototype had a driving compartment in the back. So there was a little window, and I think it was still present actually. There's a little window here, just where that tops panel is. And that did have some driving controls. Oh, 85. Oh, it's taking me via Dunbar. Come on. I'll go back to it when we're out the other end of this. Try not to mess this one up too much whilst giving you information, because you guys are actually just sitting there watching this, whereas I have the joy of being able to play and listen to me waffle on. And I've actually been doing some practicing with reading and driving, would you believe? We'll just coast through Dunbar. So it was a nice station, Dunbar, for some reason. So it's well kept. There's the nice bit in the flower garden. There's also this bit here, which I'll just show you as we're coasting through. I think I've shown you before. So this was put up in 1996 to mark the 150th anniversary. We'll wait for our rear to clear the points, and then we can pretty much go up to notch 5. So what we're saying, there was a cab, only has a single driving compartment at the leading end. An adjoining power and traction equipment area with the clean air compartment containing the main electrical equipment and brake equipment. So that's the brake frame, which is in that door behind my head here. At the back is a luggage compartment, and on some power cars a conductor's compartment at the extreme rear. Now this isn't the case anymore, so they now have trailer guard seconds, which are just behind the power cars that have the guards compartment in them. So the coaches at the 43 pools are Mark IIIs. They're 23 metres long and weigh between 33 and 39 tonnes. All are air conditioned and double glazed with air suspension, disc brakes and public address equipment. First class, which are the TF coaches, have 48 seats, and trailer standards, which are TSOs I think now they call them, which is trailer standard open vehicles, have seating for 72 or 76 passengers. There are 7 types of restaurant buffet cars. At least one is marshalled on every train, with seats for between 12 and 35 passengers. I did not know there were 7 different types of Mark III buffet. Then is that just for the HSTs? Because of course, remember, HST trailer cars, so HST Mark IIIs can't be used as loco hauled. And I will show you one reason why. They don't have buffers, and they don't have, well, some of them will do that at the HSTs run it, is it 415 volts, which is different to every other train, so that'd be why. So the conductor's compartment is located in a single trailer car seconds, which is TGS, and that's marshalled next to one of the power cars. This coach also has a small luggage compartment at the power car end and seating for 63 standard class passengers. I was just going on to the whole train supply thing, and then I've got it here. Train supply is a 415 volt 3-phase AC taken from the power car. See, most locos, I think it's DC. Oh no, it's AC for hotel services lighting. No, I'm not sure. I think it is. It's 3-phase AC taken from the power car. The air conditioning operates from this source, which is also converted to 110 volt DC for lighting. There you go. Yeah, well, it was DC, and that's for lighting, control, and battery charging. HST Mark III vehicles are therefore electrically incompatible with locomotive hauled Mark III vehicles, which operate at 850 volts nominal AC or DC. All the trailer cars have external underframe equipment access, so that's the skirt panels between the bogies. These are lettered for identification. Note that brake release valve, brake isolating cocks and main reservoir cocks on the non-toilet side of each vehicle. I'm not going to go into about I've got like really cool little fold out things. If you guys have never had any of the books by David Gibbons, this guy was obviously an illustrator, I think, for British Rail, and his drawings are awesome, but they are also everywhere. There's the British Rail Stock Spot books, if you're interested. They were really good as well, but all of these manuals, all the diagrams and illustrations are all by him, and all by looks at hand drawn. They're awesome. I've got a lot of time for this bloke. He is one very talented individual, put it that way. So we don't need all the equipment stuff. So as we're driving a modified HST, I will go through the modified front end with you. You know, we're still going to go down 85, aren't we? A number of 254, which of course the eastern region. So class 43 trains have been equipped with electronic time division multiplex, remote control systems allow them to work at multiple with a single class 91 electric locomotive, or to operate Normally, with conventional HSTs, they can also operate as a DVT, which is what we spoke about at the start. The electric locomotive cannot produce the required three-phase 415 volt AC electric train supply. This comes from the diesel power alternating the power cars, and it's a normal practice. So, like I was saying about they were just left idling. I say they were idling, the train supply would have been on, so they would have been up at a little bit of a higher RPM, but nothing major. And that was the reason why. I wouldn't have been able to tell you. That's because, of course, the 91 couldn't produce the 415 volt, which I should have known, and I didn't. Okay, these power cars are modified externally at the streamlined end, with buff beams and carriage-type draw gear to permit coupling to a diesel and electric locomotives. Other modified power cars and locomotive haul coaches... Oh, I just read that wrong. The shore supply connection is retained, a UIC jumper cable and socket is also provided, and is used only with Class 90 and 91 locomotives. I've got a sneaking suspicion the 89 could do UIC as well. There's a beast that not very many people talk about. So buffers and drop head couplers are also fitted to one end of the trailer guard second vehicles of the modified trains to permit coupling to a locomotive if necessary. To connect to an unmodified power car, a pair of RCH jumper cable connections are located on either side of the gangway. These are connected to the electrical locomotive for TDM control and communications purposes. Figure 10 shows the various blah 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 blah. We won't look at those. All the TDM equipment is housed in a TDM equipment cubicle, occupying the centre of the luggage compartment, linked to a TDM display unit above the driver's instrument panel. That was like a little box thing that's set up here. I would have loved to have seen it modelled, but of course not much of a point of doing it. And do you know, I think I've only ever seen... I don't think I've ever actually seen it in real life, or like a picture of it. I've only ever seen the illustration of it in this. So maybe they didn't last very long, or it was stuck somewhere else. I'm not sure. The display panel and the TDM MCB are of interest to technical staff and the driver only. So that's not you, Mr. Guard. TDM equipped power cars are known as HST DVT. There we go. So we go on to the... what have we got next? Hope you're enjoying this. We've got about another hour of it. So the power car luggage compartment, right, so this is here. On some power cars, the train communication equipment is located in the former guards compartment and is still in situ on the left of the door leading to the TGS. On the right of this door is the controls for the power car parking brake, consisting of a parking brake indicator, parking brake on-off push buttons. The emergency couplers are also located in this compartment inside a cupboard. See the floor plan. Oh, sorry, you can't see the floor plan. A tail lamp bracket is also provided together with a 5.4 kilo BCF fire extinguisher. Cool. I don't know why I'm doing this, I'm just going up to 85 by the time I slow down to 75. Anyway, this was in the days before on-train data monitoring and recording. Headlights. The Class 43s are equipped with 2 headlights. Normally the left hand unit is switched on. If the train is observed without a headlight on, the driver must be advised at the next stopping point. If the headlight concerned has failed, the remaining one must be switched on. If both headlights fail during a journey, however, the train may continue to its destination, but arrangements must be made for the failed headlights to be replaced at the first available opportunity. If the train arrives in a terminal station, it may proceed to the nearest maintenance depot and must not take up its next book working until the defective headlight has been repaired. In this day and age, I think you would be out of service basically, or at least some sort of headlamp fitted to the front. Even a Bardic on there I think would do you a good job. So the train must only start a journey if at least one headlight is working at the front. And then it's got some really... So David Gibbons in this one hasn't illustrated things like the guards compartment stuff. There are just some really bad pictures. I remember my friend in the 90s having a 486 computer with this like handheld scanner, and we thought it was awesome. I remember scanning money and all sorts with it. Nice and silly that was, but it was good fun. And these pictures look worse than that. It's like somebody has literally... It's like your photocopier's gone wrong. What I might actually do is I'll take a couple of pictures out of this when I put this video up and stick them on the Facebook group for you to have a look at, because they are truly awful. They're like completely unreadable, really. I can see some of the buttons say train lights, but then that's it. Here's an odd little bit. If the loud note control on the horn becomes defective, the train may continue in service, but the maximum speed must be reduced to 100 miles per hour. This defect must be remedied before a subsequent turn is worked. And the driver is forbidden to leave the driving compartment unattended without removing the master key, leaving the automatic air brake controller in the emergency set when changing ends. So you have to apply the parking brake either when changing ends or when investigating. When a passenger communication handle has been pulled, it is permissible for the driver to leave the driving compartment to investigate with the master switch in the engine only auxiliary position and the brake controller in full service. This procedure ensures the brake pipe is not fully exhausted, sufficient air pressure remains to operate the external audible indicator. See section 18 for a description of the system. Right, let's see section 18 and find out what that is. What I'm also going to do, well, we've got a 95 mile per hour section, coming down to 80. I am going to quickly run and get the driver static duties manual. But of course, because I can't edit anything, I won't stop the video, but it'll just go quiet for about a minute, I think. But I'll make sure we're on a good stretch of track before I go and do that. Let's try and find section 18 and find out what this audible thing is. 15, 15.2, 15.5. Is it like some sort of buzzing beeper that tells you what PASCOM's been pulled or what? 17.2, 18 passenger communication equipment. Okay, so it's PASCOM stuff. Oh, I'm still going way too fast for that speed limit. Trailer cars are fitted with an internal standard PASCOM and handles. Their location is shown on the floor plan, which you can't see. When pulled, the handles lock in the operating position and must be reset with carriage key. The resulting mechanism keyway is below the handle. When turned, the handle will return automatically to the normal position. Passenger communication valve visual indicators are not provided on the trailer vehicles. The PASCOM has been operated and cannot be reset. It is isolated by closing the PASCOM isolating cock behind the skirt door panel Q in the appropriate vehicle. Well, that didn't tell me about any sound. It's quite annoying. And now I've lost my place. Where was I? Right, I'm going to use this opportunity a little bit slow running and know what I think to be... Oh no, we're coming up to Berwick. I don't think we're far out of Berwick. Yeah. I'm going to risk it. See you in a minute. Look at that for timing, just before the 90 limit entering Berwick. Okay, the bad thing was that my darling dearest wife has tidied up all my manuals that I'd left scattered about the kitchen, and she's put it upstairs. I didn't get a chance to get upstairs to get it, but she's going to pass it out to me when she gets a chance. Whew! That was a bit of a run. Okay, what have we got next? Go back over this. I'm going a little bit slow, to be fair, but I'm guessing slow down. No, speed up a bit. So yeah, we had all those rubbish pictures, didn't we? I think we were on when the driver could leave the curb, weren't we? All defects and da 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 da. So, as a bit of a clause, conductors working these trains will be required to undertake the following additional duties. Assisting the driver as shown in section 6. We'll get to that. Coupling and uncoupling in an emergency unless alternative arrangements exist. Ensuring that the destination indicators are correctly displayed on each side of the train. Now, there was no electronic destination displays at the time of these, and HSTs have never been fitted with them. They have those really very handy to take a little bit of a souvenir from the train. Paper ones that slot in the doors, just like the 91s, the Mark IVs did, really. I was always a bit surprised why the Mark IVs never had a digital display, because if you look at like the the German ice trains, TGVs, they all had them by then. So this is actually going to route us into a platform at Berwick for our sins. It's just a general train sim thing while I don't have to read something. Since the last train sim update, which was rather large, I have noticed some stability improvements. I'm going to touch wood now because if this dumps on me I'll be annoyed. But there has been some definite improvements. And I've seen quite a few other people say that there's things like vortex buffer issues and all sorts going on. Memory dumps have become more frequent, even though they weren't something I particularly suffered with. They do seem to have gone on. I've heard quite a few people on several forums and on Facebook saying, actually, do you know, it's been alright. Do you know what? No, I'm not going to do some Bay Bridge shots. I will, that's a lie. Oh, there's one there. Get that HUD out of the way. I deleted about 6 gigs worth of screenshots the other day. So coupling and uncoupling. As much as I'll go through this with the emergency coupling and stuff, there is a awesome video on YouTube. If you just search for HST emergency coupling, there is a cracking 1970s video, late 1970s, early 80s video, with some very cool hair in it. That actually shows you the whole procedure. And it is actually the British Rail training video that was out there. So coupling and uncoupling, other than HST DVTs, Class 43s are not equipped with conventional buffers and draw gear, and cannot couple to trains without special lightweight drawbars. These are like big aluminium bars, basically. I think they're aluminium, look like it. 2 are carried on each Class 43 inside a cupboard in the luggage compartment. One is used to couple 2 Class 43s together, and the other is used to couple locomotives. The adapter couplings cannot be used to couple with locomotives equipped with a drop head buckeye unless the locomotive concerned has a special coupling adapter. Both emergency couplers and the special adapters are described and illustrated, and you won't see that. Inter-car couplers. Right, now this is something I've always wondered. So HSTs, I knew they had a proprietary coupling between them. I never knew what it was called, and this is one of the only manuals that I've seen actually call it what they're called. So they call them inter-car couplers, inter-vehicle coupling, semi-permanent coupling, bar types. These have what are called alliance buckeye type couplings. So I'm going to try and look them up and see what I can find out about them. Instructions for operating these are in the general appendix, which we don't have. If a train becomes divided when running, the 2 portions must be secured immediately by parking brakes and or scotches. No attempt must be made to recouple the 2 portions unless maintenance staff are in attendance. Where possible, the front portion of the train may proceed forward with the rear portion left secured, as in the rulebook, section M, clause 4 is carried out. If the train is deliberately divided because of a defect of the rear power car and or adjoining vehicles, the and the front portion of the train goes forward, which are powered only by the leading power car, the maximum speed will be 110. So there you go. If it's just one power car. I've been on a HST set where the rear power car's failed, and they're not the fastest of things. It would take you a good while to get up to 110, I think. A good while. Does the signal buzzer work? No. See? Yeah. Let's do a little bit of signal start and buzzers. So the codes, I don't have them written down at the moment, but it's 2 for go, 1 for stop, 9, I think it's 9 to call police. But to call to speak to the guard is four and 4. And that is whenever a driver wishes to call another driver in the other driving compartment or guard. So when a train is running, the train communication system must be used for essential purposes. If the train communication system fails, inform traffic control. The signal to start must be given in accordance with the rule book section H, clause 5.1.4. Traffic control must be arranged for situations, must arrange for stations at which the train is booked to stop at to be advised accordingly. So as like all trains of this sort of area, parcels were still going on the railways quite massively around the late 80s, still even more earlier than that. So therefore the 43s were equipped to take parcels. The maximum weight of parcels, mail, luggage and or other articles loaded in the luggage compartment of a power car containing the conductor's compartment must not exceed 1.5 tonnes or 2.5 tonnes when the conductor's compartment has been removed. Loading of the TGS vehicle must not exceed 1.25 tonnes. The person in charge of the station at which any of the traffic is loaded must ensure that these limits are not exceeded. So these are actually scrawled on the cab door, on the rear doors as well of 43s. Loading must be contained within the loading area. When loading mail, parcels and luggage, there is no need for the door of the cupboard containing the emergency drawer gear and lamp bucket to be kept clear. There is no need. Okay? So you can block it out than that. Let's get up to 125. I'll give my voice and your ears a rest for a minute or two. I said I was going to give you a rest and then stuck you in the passenger view and press the horn. Sorry guys. So there was actually a station at Craig Mill, closed completely after 1955. Ooh, laggy, laggy, laggy. So what's that section of just 100 for then? Chattel Station. So even though this is on the East Coast Main Line, this is actually only served by 2 arrivals and 2 departures a day by Northern Rail for services to Newcastle. So if you actually want to travel north from Cheltenham Station, you actually have to go back to Alnmouth and then north again. Sort myself out a bit, sorry guys. Brave bus that was. Not as brave as that car. next section is air conditioning. Woo! To be fair, you're probably watching these videos because you're a bit like me and like these little details. I mean, I don't really find... There's some bits I find a little bit more tedious than others, reading these, and some are very samey. I mean, once you've got a couple of these manuals, you pretty much know what it's going to say a lot of the time. But the working instructions are always that little bit more interesting because they have sort of the quirks or the differences of the actual train you're wanting. So like driving instructions will be pretty much the same for most unless there is something specific for that train. Before, even though you've got sort of separate manuals for things like class 20s, 31s, 37s, you do get separate manuals. There's also just general driving instructions for all of them, and they're pretty much the same. So, the trailer cars on 43s, which are Mark 3s, are equipped with air conditioning equipment supplied with power from the train supply. This is a non-standard system which we've already been through, 3-phase 415 volts AC. This comes from an auxiliary alternator coupled to and driven by the diesel engine in each power car. The air conditioning, it must be switched on in one of the power cars. The traction supply must be switched on in one of the power cars when the engines are started. Been through that. That's what we did at Edinburgh in the rear car. Air conditioning equipment must be turned on in each trailer vehicle in accordance with the instructions of the general appendix for Mark 3A coaches under the heating provision. I do have that, funnily enough. The switch and associated green indicator light is located in one of the vehicle vestibules, which you all will have seen. Mark 4s have a cool little panel that was always showing faults up until their last overhaul. Even the Mallard overhaul got sorted them out to a point. But I mean, I remember Mark 4s being roasted sometimes. Preheating or preconditioning, both are going to have what they say on the tin. One makes it warmed up before it goes into service and one makes it cool before it goes into service. It must be carried out in accordance with these instructions. When a train has completed its journey, the air conditioning can be left on until the next day, providing at least one engine is running. I'm going to slow down. This one engine is running or shore supplies are being provided throughout. Come on. Love that brake rub sound. It's actually on both of these HST packs now. So have a little wave to one of my subscribers called Lola's Dad. Almouth is his local station, so hello Lola's Dad. It's weird, I don't know why, that really stuck in my head when you put that, mate, so that's why I kind of remembered it. And my daughter was going to be called Lola if I had my choice. That's probably why it stuck in my head. So what did we say? So we said, yeah, the air conditioning be kept on if we have short power or one engine's being left on. If the trains are stand for more than 15 minutes and the engines are stopped with no shore supply available, or is to run empty to a stabling point, the air conditioning control switch in each trailer vehicle must be turned to auxiliaries only. When the train is finally stabled, the air conditioning control switches in each trailer vehicle must be turned off. All other regulations for stabling and storing Mark III coaches are set out in the general appendix under provision of electrical power supply to locomotive hull trains for heating, air conditioning, etc. This must be observed. So I quite see this is the sort of thing, that's the Regis sort of thing, which is why I really like these manuals. Something you don't really get a chance to get your hands on. When the chief civil engineer's track recording coach DB999550 is marshalled in the train supply must be switched on in both power cars. When the train is being driven from a power car adjacent to the track recording coach, the train supply on indication will not show. If the train supply from the rear power car has become defective, therefore the conductor must inform the driver the air conditioner of the whole train ceases to function. This will be apparent when the 3 red neons in the coach air conditioning panel goes out. So it basically sounds like this track recording coach takes a fair bit of juice, so it needs its own power car to power it. I don't know how many if they were used in service. I'd like to see that. There was quite a few Mark III test coaches, and we've got even more now. The NMT. So lighting wise, individual vehicle lighting or full train lighting can be operated by a lighting control panel adjacent to the auxiliary and air conditioning control unit in the vestibule of each coach. The location shown. Train light can also be switched on from the conductor's compartment. There you go, I didn't know that either. Heavy braking to get this down in time. When the train is stabled, all trailer vehicle lighting must be switched off. Toilets, it's nice and quick at this point. The toilets are standard to Mark III design. No special toilet facilities are provided for the no special toilet facilities are provided for the disabled. So 89, yeah, it would have been on the sort of on the radar, wouldn't it? I don't know when HST's got a disabled toilet, if I'm honest. Or even wheelchair space. Is there even wheelchair space? I don't know. So, air suspension bogies. Mark III HST trailer vehicles are equipped with air suspension like their locomotive hull counterparts. The system uses a pair of airbags, air springs, in quote marks, on each bogie, inflated with compressed air from the supply taken from the main reservoir pipe. Levelling valves adjust the air pressure to match the load, thereby keeping the coach floor at a constant height above the rail. And they are, for those of you who don't know, to be fair, they're not very well modelled on this. They're in here. Like they're non-existent. Well, oh no, I'm being a plum. It's not like the later Brill bogies. So sorry, to be clear, the air suspension spring is here on the Mark III. These are the BT, I want to say BT10, I'm not sure. Bogies are here. So next we go to the brake system. The brake equipment is standard British Railways 2-pipe, however brake pipe and main reservoir pipe is provided on both sides of the draw gear for the trailer vehicles. Only one brake pipe and one main reservoir pipe is fitted to the gangway end of the power cars. The brake pipes and main reservoir pipes between the trailer vehicles must be coupled and their cocks opened on both sides of the train. Caliper disc brakes are used on all vehicles of the train. Disc and tread brakes are fitted to HS2 power cars and DVTs. So, like I was saying the last time I did an HS2 video, you've got discs here, and you've got tread brakes as well. So earlier on we were talking about brake continuity testing. Here's how it works. The driver and conductor must cooperate in making this vital test to prove the brake pipe continuity throughout the train. A brake continuity test must be made in the following circumstance without exception. Before a train leaves the depot staging point, whenever a train is taken over, and the absence of a former driver, conductor or shunters, after the train has been reformed, uncoupled or recoupled at any point, after any brake defect or irregularity has been isolated or rectified. The procedure for carrying out a brake continuity test is as follows. The driver, who must be in the leading power car, must move the brake test switch to normal service, which is here, so it's in normal. Apply the parking brake if not already applied. Move the automatic brake controller to running, so that'd be where we are now, so it's got run written there. The conductor, who must be in the rear power car, must check that the brake pipe pressure is approximately 5 bar, the main reservoir approximately 7 bar. So we've got 5 bar there, 7 bar there. The conductor must either open the emergency brake valve or depress the emergency brake plunger for half a minute and observe that the brake pressure falls. On closing the emergency brake valve or raising the emergency brake plunger, he must check that the brake pipe pressure rises to approximately 5 bar. So we'd have to come back up to that. The driver must observe the resulting drop in brake pipe pressure and subsequent rise back up to 5 bar. The conductor must then communicate with the driver, both confirm to their satisfaction that the test has been completed. The driver must, if driving from a different driving compartment from the one which was prepared, when changing ends, make a holding brake application before releasing the parking brake. The conductor must not give the signal to start until he has carried out the duties above in the above test. The driver is not to start the train unless he has observed the rise and fall of pressure on the brake pipe pressure gauge in the leading driving compartment. Failure to create a brake pipe pressure of approximately 5 bar throughout the train may be due to one or more of the following defects. Defective traction equipment on the power car, defective trailer vehicle, the front brake pipe cock on a leading power car, or the rear brake pipe cock on a rear power car not being fully closed. Any unused brake pipe cock of the trailer vehicle is not fully closed. An intermediate brake pipe cock fully closed. Leakage between flexible hoses on the vehicle. Passenger communication cord. What else have we got? So it says at Morpeth, and I'm not even watching the screen. Parking brake applied must, which is an off. Emergency brake plunger for not fully raised. Conductor's emergency brake valve open where fitted. There we go, so it's a fair list. So of course everybody knows where we are. Coming up to the famous Morpeth curve. Sly old bit of curve in it. Let's get a look. This is quite often where I like to get a look out the window. Just that turbocharger screen is so nice. So nice. So, brake isolation. 16 miles left, did I see there? 15 miles, right. So we're not huge amounts of time left. Just trying to think if brake isolation is something I want to go through. I suppose it'll fit in because we've still got, I estimate, another 20 pages to go, and we've only done 20 pages and we've missed out some on the way through this anyway, so just knock my volume there. Brake isolation. If the brake will not release on any vehicle, the distributor release valve handle indicated by a white star must be pulled. If the brake cannot be released, the main reservoir isolating cock handle, painted yellow, must be moved to the closed position. The brake isolating cock handle, painted in red, must then be moved to the brake isolated position. Finally, the distributor valve release handle must be pulled again until the brake's released. There's something about reading brake things, it's all about cocks, isn't it? All about cocks. If the brake on any vehicle is found to be dragging, the release handle must be pulled. If this does not release the brake, it should be isolated, described in the previous paragraph. If the brakes do not release and the defect cannot be remedied, the vehicle must be detached at the first available point, any movement being made at reduced speed. Train must not enter passenger service from maintenance depot with the brake isolated. If the brake on one trailer vehicle is isolated, the driver must be informed. He must then limit the speed of the train to 10 miles an hour below the maximum speed of the line, or 10 miles per hour below such other lower permanent speed restrictions as shown in Table A, Section Appendix. If the brake's isolated on two trailer vehicles, the driver must be informed, and a similar procedure applies, but the limit must be reduced by 20 miles per hour. One bogie isolated on either power car must be regarded as equivalent to one trailer vehicle, and the speed must be limited accordingly. These restrictions do not apply when the maximum line speed is 100 miles per hour or below. The driver must reduce the speed as necessary, having regard to the brake power available. If the brakes become defective on more than two trailer vehicles on a train, it may be worked forward at reduced speed, having regard to the brake power available to the nearest convenient point where the defect can be remedied or the defective vehicle is detached. I love the way in these it doesn't really ever talk about detraining passengers, whereas a lot of the more modern ones would say just get it to somewhere, detrain passengers, then get it somewhere. It just sort of says, man, just take it somewhere and get it fixed. If you can't, well. I think that was just because it was probably common sense to detrain passengers. And these days they need it a bit more spelled out to. If in the course of a journey it is in a corny. If the course of a journey it is necessary to isolate the brake pipe pressure control unit on the rear power car, the driver must be informed and he must limit the speed of the train to 110 miles an hour. On completion of the journey, the train must be taken out of service. On reversal, it will be not possible to charge up the brake pipe from the now leading power car with brake pipe pressure control unit isolated. I hope you understood that, because I'd have to reread that about 5 times. So PASCON we did. Transfer of power cars. When power cars are being transferred from one point to another, they may be either run in pairs with their gangways coupled, run singly under their own power with suitable drop head buckeye fitted air brake vehicle attached to the rear, run singly under their own power between specific points as authorised by the Regional Operations Manager as detailed in the section appendix. Pulled by a locomotive. In all cases, they must be signalled and dealt with as a Class 0 train. A hauling locomotive may be attached to either the front or rear of a power car. When attached to the front, this must be in accordance with Section 23. And there must be a buckeye fitted air braked vehicle attached to the rear. So it basically means it needs sort of a coach or something behind it. I think it's probably going to be more for brake force than anything. A single power car may haul one or more air brake trailer vehicles up to a maximum of 9, the rearmost of which must, except in an emergency, be fitted with a conductor's compartment with handbrake, drop head buckeye coupler and buffers. Such train will be seen as a Class 1 or Class 5 as appropriate. Good God. 9 trailer cars to 1 power car. This is how it's going to be coming up to heating now, which is always where I used to get dumps, so it doesn't actually tell you when you start this run up, safe before you get to heating. By chance the last time and that had more stock than I think this is going to have on it. So let's hope for the best. So I'm going to do a part 2 of this. Probably not long after I do this one. I hope you have enjoyed it. 4 miles until we stop. So to give them credit, the Armstrong Powerhouse Class 43 Valenta pack, it is pretty spot on. Apart from the lights being slightly different colours and things. So a single with a diversionary, it was. Maybe if I don't look at heating, it might not cause me that much grief. That's cool. That's the Armstrong Powerhouse 90, and that's a 91. So why do I only see BR Blue 47s with split head code, 37s with split head codes, and 47s with split head codes? Quite like to have passed the 91 on its way up. I can't say the 90 with Mark 3s was exactly prototypical. It's cool to see it. Right era. 40 limit just before Argyle Street. I'm hopefully back up in Newcastle over Easter at some point. Transpen on 158. What was that? Funny enough, actually, my cousin runs a tattoo studio in Newcastle called Geo Tribe, and he's looking for slightly bigger premises. And one of the places he is looking is in the Railway Arches. He's going to speak to Network Rail at some point. .380. It's come a bit far. It does look smart. Alright guys, thank you ever so much for watching. Part 2 will be up pretty shortly, I think. I'm going to film it straight after this. So don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And we'll just get a nice little view at the front before we go. Thanks again guys. See you later.